Hello guys, James here and welcome to another Football Manager 2015 experiment. Now in this one, what if no Premier League teams had any players at all? They've got the budgets that they start with in the game, but they don't have any players. No first team, no under 21, no under 19s. Not one single player in the club, but yet the staff and the management team is still the same. They've basically got to use the budgets that they have at the start to buy players from any other league around the world, or try and poach players that also got released from other Premier League teams. Now, in this one, at the start, there's a lot of greyed out players, basically because they have no players at all. So these are non-usable regens, if you like. Now, this is very interesting. We're going to zip forward. We're going to show you each team and who they signed and how much money they spent and who they brought in. I tell you, there's some interesting signings amongst all this. There's some pretty terrible ones as well. Then we'll show you the league and see how they got on with a team made out of almost nothing but the money they have at the club, and some clubs do not have much money at all. Let's zip forward a season and see how the non-player teams got on. Okay, so before we check the Premier League at the end of the season, we're going to go through each team's transfers and see who they signed on a free transfer or from money outside of the Premier League. Okay, so first up, we'll go in alphabetical order. That means we start with Arsenal. Now, they brought in Christian Benteke, Kostel Pantilimon, Jed Steer, Victor Moses, Patrick Van Aanholt, Yasser Kazim, who they paid Swindon for. That just shows you how much they've dropped and how much their transfer targets have dropped, and probably sheer desperation to get players in. Mohamed Salah from Chelsea, Julian Green, Stephen Ireland from Stoke, Joey O'Brien and Gylfi Sigurdsson, Shane Long, Jeremy Boga, who you'll see left Chelsea on a free, joined Sporting Lisbon and came to Arsenal on loan. Regan Poole from Manchester United and Rio da Silva, the Chelsea wonder kid. They sold nobody, just brought in a whole host of players. I wouldn't expect many teams to have sold players due to having none at the start. Now, I haven't actually checked this. This is coming new to me. I haven't looked ahead. I know what the Premier League table says, but I have not looked at any signings from any of the teams. Let's move on to Aston Villa. So very few players signed by Aston Villa, which tells me that they used probably 15 to 20 greyed out non-regen players in the season due to not bringing players in. This is possibly and probably down to not having the cash available to bring the players in. So they brought in Luke McGee, Connor Thomas from Coventry for 1.6 million, Callum Robertson, George Willis and Paul Downing from Walsall. That is pretty bog standard, poor signings to say the best. So they didn't bring on much, and now we will move on to the Bournemouth signings. And as you can see again, no players let go. This is probably going to be a theme in this experiment, but players brought in: Ryan Ennis from Crystal Palace, Hiram Boateng also from Crystal Palace, Dimitri Mitchell, I believe is the former Manchester United youngster. Also coming in is Jennison Myrie Williams, Cameron Park, Ollie Lee from, I think it's West Ham, or Rob Lee's son, definitely. Jerome Benham Williams from Crystal Palace, he's a talented player, and David Foley also. So we'll move on to the next set of transfers in the next club. Always sure to be an interesting one is Chelsea, spending 11.25 million, signing Daniel Bentley, the goalkeeper, very talented from Southend, and loaning him out again. Brought in Danny Ings, Jordan Much, Fraser Forster, Nathan Redmond, Mamadou Sakho, Robbie Brady. They re-signed John Obi Mikel. They got Mamadou Diouf, Carl Jenkinson, Wilfred Zaha, Eric Dier. Spent a monster amount on Jordan Abita from Reading. They re-signed Willian. They got Reece Oxford and brought in the man with the rocket left foot, Alexander Kolarov. Let's move on to Crystal Palace. Putting this bluntly, Crystal Palace done some pretty poor business. Bringing in Mason Holgate from Everton, Gary Martin, a bit of a Football Manager legend from KR, Mackenzie Heaney, the former Newcastle United youngster, Ryan Kent from Liverpool, and also signing Harry Lennon from Charlton, as well as Brad Walker from Hartlepool. Shaquille Coolhurst also come in from Tottenham. We move on to the next club and set of transfers. It's the blue side of Liverpool again. No players going out of this club. Signings include Tony Warner, the very old age pensioner-like goalkeeper, to be honest, Leonardo Ulloa, as well as Daniel Powell coming in. They signed a couple of boys from Inverness Caledonian Thistle, James Vincent and David Raven. Sol Ki Hyun coming in, Luke Young coming in. It just shows you how skint these clubs are if they don't have the players they already have, because they're bringing in players that are probably not even good enough for League One. Also joining Isaac Hayden from Arsenal, Juan Carlos Garcia from Wigan, Hogan Ephraim from Wycombe, and Matt Grimes, the former Swansea City player. Again, a poor bunch of signings from this club, now Leicester City. Mirko Ranieri, former Spurs player, coming in. Kgosi Ntiti from Peterborough. Jordan Willis from Coventry. Jordan Jones from Middlesbrough. And that is the best of the bunch. Also coming in was Mitchell Beanie from Chelsea. But not a lot happening there. They managed to pick up former Arsenal youngster and Hull player Craig Eastman. But that is all to talk about for Leicester City. Now, I expected quite a bit of big movement from the red side of Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool himself, Johnny Howson coming in, as well as Aaron Cresswell from West Ham, Jamal Lascelles from Newcastle, the Sunderland player Stephen Fletcher, but signing of Ross Draper from Inverness is a poor one. Nick Powell, Andros Townsend, Sebastian Bassong also coming in, as has Lee Chung Yong and Bjorna Sigurdsson from Wolves. A club with money, you'd expect a few decent signings. Manchester City brought in Wayne Hennessy, James McCarthy, Sheridan Shaqiri, Jan Vertonghen, Juan Cuadrado, Hector Bellerin, Divock Origi, Luke Shaw, Carl Darlow, Callum Chambers, Jordan Ibe, Tyrone Mings, and Andreas Christensen, who got released by Chelsea, joined Milan, and loaned to Manchester City from AC Milan. I must say, guys, that I did undo all the loans for the Premier League, so all the original players like Juan Cuadrado, I undone his loan to Juventus from Chelsea, so he was viable to make a move to another Premier League club, or any club in the world, as you'd expect. Now guys, I must say there's going to be a lot of players probably you won't see, and I don't know who yet, but I'll use the example of Arsenal players, Aaron Ramsey, Theo Walcott. Now unless they've signed for clubs further on, because as I say I've not looked at all the clubs' transfers yet, then if you want to see them, inbox me, message me, comment on YouTube, and I will search for them and I will show you where they are and what they're doing. On to the Red Devils, the mighty Manchester United signings. Angus Gunn coming in from Manchester City, Bruno Fernandes, the talented young player from Udinese, Jack Butland, re-signed Phil Jones, Sadio Mane came in, Moussa Dembele, Sam Johnston re-signed, Gaston Ramirez came in, Ben Davis, Connor Wickham, Andy Carroll, that's a big one there, John Joe Shelby, John Flanagan, and signing of Collie Woodrow, 8 million, talented youngster from Fulham, a lot of money there spent on him. Jack Rodwell, and they also got Liam Kelly from Reading and Ben Marshall from Reading. Now to the club I support, Paulo Gazzaniga coming in at Newcastle, as does Jack Stevens, both from Southampton, Alex Pozzuolo, former Swansea loanee, Alex Pritchard from Tottenham, Alex Moat, 7.25 million from Leeds, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles from Arsenal, a very talented youngster, and he's got pretty good attributes on the game. Norwich coming up from the Championship, signing Keshi Anderson from Palace, Ryan Ledson from Everton, Hayden Hollis from Notts County. They brought in a double deal from Liverpool, Jack Dunn, Jordan Rossiter, Marcus Edwards from Tottenham, Daniel Trickett-Smith also from Liverpool, and they went on to sign Niall Keown from Reading, Jack Finch, the talented young defensive midfielder from Coventry, 750,000, Billy Daniels, the free agent just released by Notts County, Duncan Watmore, the Sunderland player, and also signed Vitaj Maximenko on the cheap from Brighton. We move on to Southampton, of course continuing to pump out young players, quality regens as they do every year. As soon as they got to Regen Day 1, they probably got a few regens and used them in the Premier League. But the signings in this experiment, Callum Wilson from Bournemouth, Jamal Blackman, Sean Kavanagh, 3.7 million from Fulham, Jose Baxter, 1 million, Brendan Galloway, Dominic Ball, Lee Hodgson from MK Dons, Asaya Brown, Chelsea youngster, Connor Townsend, John Fleck, Giorgio Rasulo, talented youngster from MK Dons, and they got Filippo Romagna on loan from Juventus. Stoke City, one outgoing is David Stevens on loan to Orlando City, who they brought in for £200,000 from Barnet. He's a lower league beast at central defender. Signings include Nathan Eccleston, Shea Ojo from Liverpool, Jake Hesketh from Southampton, Dean Rittenberg from Blackburn, as well as Jake Sinclair signing from Southampton, Adam Armstrong, the Newcastle United youngster, Mark Gillespie and Sam Mantham come in from Carlisle and Walsall, and they also signed George Long another goalkeeper from Sheffield United, as well as the striker from Manchester United, that is Will Keane. We move on to the North East, and Sunderland re-signed Jordan Pickford. The goalkeeper signed Rafael Calvé from Brentford, Nicky Law from Rangers, Frank Nouble, the free agent, Darcy Blake, also a free agent, Nathan Thompson from Swindon for near 600k, Ryan Seeger from Southampton, talented youngster, you can make something of him, Carlton Morris, also a talented youngster from Norwich, currently on loan at Hamilton, you can make something of him as well. The probably biggest signings, I have to say, is Callum McGregor on loan from Celtic. Swansea City, well, they picked up Jack Barmby, the former Manchester United player, Michael Crowe from Ipswich for 1.8 million, Mitch Hancock from Birmingham for 2.3 million. They also got Joe Rothwell from Manchester United, Scott Wooton from Leeds, a great defender in the lower leagues, Michael Bostwick. Sorry, lower leagues, I say lower leagues as in below the Championship, really to me is a league lower, if you know what I mean. Jack Grimmer, 2.6 million, comes from not too far away from me. John Otzemabor, former Liverpool player a long time ago. Ryan Haynes from Coventry. Kuro is a decent signing on loan from Sevilla, while they also picked up Denzel Slager and Gary Gardner. I would expect a good bit of business from Tottenham. They brought in Jay Rodriguez, good player, Jack Grealish, Matthew Targett, Kyle Bartley, Harrison Reed. It appears they picked some players up from Southampton, Tyler Blackett, Declan John, big bucks, 7.25 million from Cardiff, Demarai Gray, 4.8 million from Birmingham, Jake Keane, the goalkeeper, Hayden White, 4.9 million from Bolton. It seems to me that other clubs, such as Championship clubs, as you can see, they three signings there are haggling for big bucks, because that is pretty much 16 million for Declan John, Demarai Gray and Hayden White. Now, you'd never ever get that in a million years, but it shows that these clubs are struggling to get players, so they're having to pay over the odds. Or the Championship clubs, such as Cardiff, Birmingham and Bolton, are playing hardball and getting big money out of them. Patrick Roberts comes in from Manchester City. Lewis Baker from Chelsea. Tony Drandad, Dave Alhena, probably their star signing, or definitely one of their better signings. Very talented youngster from Feyenoord, and Jan Danda from Liverpool. Now we're getting to the business end of the signings for clubs, as we're doing it alphabetically. Now, Watford, they used their feeder club, Udinese, to bring in 4 players who I've never heard of and I'll probably butcher their names, and they also brought in Bryce Vasse on a free transfer, so not much going on there, which tells me they used the grey, non-regen players throughout the season. West Brom, one outgoing Stephen James on loan to Crystal Palace. Stephen Bywater brought in Steve Phillips from Cadbury Heath. I believe that's the old goalkeeper. Sammy Odalusi from Bolton, Bradley Orr, Asai Osborne and Dominic Gape, the former Southampton player, coming in on free transfers. Stephen James was brought in from Preston for £38,000 and then joined Palace on loan. And the final ones, West Ham, who have brought in Grant Smith, Ryan Alsop, Marvin Emes, Ellis Plummer, Cameron Brannigan on free transfers, also bringing in Jerome Sinclair, the Liverpool youngster, Cameron Dawson, Florent Cuvelier, Mathieu Baudry and Toumani Diaguraga. Now, it's a weird situation, because a lot of these clubs only signed about 10 players, which means unless they got injured, they were using a lot of greyed out fake players, non-regens, non-playable or usable players in the game. So really, it's kind of difficult to judge who you think would come out on top. But I guess the big clubs, the ones with money, did sign better players. There's tons and tons of players missing. Now I'm going to show you a few of them after I've showed you the league table and stats for the players of the season. Now this is how the table finished. Now it was pretty much as expected, to be honest. As expected as in real life, not how these players they used helped them out. Now Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Southampton, top 7. That's the way it's going to go this season, in my opinion. Now, it's a weird one, because these players didn't exactly have world-class players, but the other teams just had worse players. Now, I did not see it coming out like this. Is it because they had the biggest budgets? Is it because it's those clubs? I really can't tell, because it's difficult to say, because they didn't have many world-class players in amongst the whole Premier League at this point. Now, relegated was Newcastle, West Brom and Norwich. I can understand West Brom, Norwich and Newcastle going down. Don't have a great deal of money to start and struggle to bring players in, and the ones they did bring in were poor, but most clubs did bring in poor players. Outside those top 6-7 clubs, none of the players outside of the other 13 really could get into those top 7 clubs. Now, it's a strange one, but Chelsea convincingly take the lead and the Premier League Championship by 8 points. Let's move on to player stats and see how some of them got on. Now, as you can see here in the player stats, there isn't a host of big, brilliant names, so it just tells you how poor this league was in the season. Average rating, Jack Hunt 8.09, Alan Cresswell, I'm not surprised by that, 7.80 at Liverpool. Mathieu Baudry, 7.77 at West Ham, and 2 Manchester United players in the top 5 average ratings for the season, John Flanagan and Moussa Dembele. In terms of goals, Divock Origi scored 29 goals in the league, top goal scorer quite comfortably. Now, I doubt he was playing against the best defences in the world on the game. Well, he definitely wasn't. And Man City probably signed the best of the bunch, probably because they had the most money to spend. Callum Wilson, 20 goals for Southampton. Jay Rodriguez, 19 for Tottenham. Stephen Fletcher, 18 for Liverpool. And Shane Long, 18 for Arsenal. In terms of assists, Gylfi Sigurdsson doesn't surprise me. You can stick him in any game on the planet in the game, any team on the planet in the game, and he will get assists and goals, I can assure you that. Dembele, it looked like he had a good season. He also got 15 assists. Luke Shaw, 14 assists from left back for Man City. John Flanagan, also a top season, as did Jack Hunt. Okay, so that's basically the riches to rags Premier League season, where the Premier League teams and the league as a whole was pretty damn dreadful. Now, there's a lot of players missing, and players that I would probably not think about at the current time, as I'm about to show you a few, that will probably join much bigger clubs on free transfers. So, that's the Premier League over. I'm going to show you a few players now and see where they went and how they got on. So, after being released, Wayne Rooney, only 29 years old, nobody willing to pick him up in the world. That tells you that his wages are probably too high, but even still, it's very bizarre. Another one released and not doing anything, 26-year-old Theo Walcott. Now, this is strange. I did not expect him to be in a free agent. Now, I hope I'm not going to get a theme here of players who are just free agents and not being signed by clubs. So finally we come to a player that's actually been picked up. It's a bizarre one. Aaron Ramsey has joined Middlesbrough in the Championship and went to a rocket value of £26 million. Now, it's come to me and it's really occurred to me now that I did only load the Premier League so I could really get this experiment done much quicker. So maybe that is why some players are still currently free agents. In another bizarre transfer, David De Gea, 24 years old, obviously wanted not by many clubs. He's joined Lokomotiv Moscow, conceded 22 goals in 19 appearances. I'll show you 3 or 4 more players before we wrap up the experiment. Unwilling to sign for other clubs, John Terry has packed his bags in, hung up his boots, and has now decided he's going to try his hand at the management at the age of 34. Aha! Finally, a transfer that doesn't surprise me. Now, after being a free agent, the 22-year-old Coutinho has joined Juventus and went to a value of £31.5 million. Finally, a transfer that we can see and quite realistic in terms of the game. The Spurs player, sometimes captain and of course the England international, Harry Kane, has joined Cardiff. The £56 million Manchester United player has moved to Juventus and is now valued at £30 million, scoring 30 goals in 42 appearances. Alexis Sanchez has made the move over to Bayern Munich and is valued at £30 million, scoring 3 goals in 16 games, but that tells me he's a rotational player, like it does say under squad status there, or he's been injured a lot. Almost like replacing Kevin De Bruyne, Mesut Ozil has went back to Germany and signed for Wolfsburg. Now, this one I was keeping until very, very last because in my opinion he is definitely the best player in the Premier League and probably and possibly the third best player on the planet. It's Mr. Sergio Aguero, and he has joined, bizarrely in a strange move, Benfica of Portugal. Now thanks guys for checking out the experiment, and I'll be back again soon.